7:20, 20 after 7, 40 minutes at 8 here, Big 550, KTRS. Eric Schmidt, ladies and gentlemen, is a state senator from Glendale, Missouri, been on the show numerous times. He also is a big supporter of Nurses for Newborns, and he wants to be your next treasurer, and he joins us now. Good morning, Eric Schmidt.
Good morning, McGraw. I like the bumper music. It's very appropriate.
We're here for you. All right, so you're spearheading this ticket thing and this Muni ticket issue that has sort of consumed us the last 6 months. So what happened yesterday? We had
the bill that I filed would lower the threshold or the cap that a city can obtain from traffic tickets and fines from 30% to 10%. It's a bill that I pre-filed in December. We just got back into Jeff City a couple of weeks ago. So my first, the committee that I chair, the Committee on Economic Development and Local Government, we had our first hearing yesterday. We heard Senate Bill 5, which is that bill, and it was very well attended. There were a lot of folks there. It was really interesting, McGraw, in that there was a lot of support for it. And the support ranged from the St. Louis Tea Party Coalition to the ACLU. And I think when you have that kind of support across the political spectrum, we're probably on to something. I mean, the fact of the matter is there's just too many municipalities too dependent on traffic tickets and fines. And I'll say one thing that came from that, former St. Louis County Police Chief Tim Fitch testified in support of the bill, too, in saying that these are ticket schemes that are going on, but he handed the committee a letter that he obtained at some point from the mayor of Edmondson that said this, I wish to take this opportunity to remind you, he's writing this to the police chief of Edmondson, I wish to take this opportunity to remind you that tickets you write do add to the revenue in which the police department budget is established and will directly affect pay adjustments at budget time. So, I mean, I suppose, that's about as direct of a link as you can have to what's going on here. So it was very enlightening.
Well, first of all, you're a uniter and not a divider if you can get the Tea Party and the ACLU on the same page. So
That's right.
That's a bigger story in and of itself.
It really was, and I'm not sure, I've been in the legislature now, this is my 7th session, and I'm not sure I've worked on an issue like this where you really have people see what's happening. You have sort of the long arm of big government reaching into people's pocketbooks in really a backdoor way, and I've called it taxation by citation. It's really a very hidden tax. We all see it. St. Anne, for example, just 6 years ago, McGraw, St. Anne wrote just over 2,000 tickets. Now they write over 9,000 tickets. Just 6 years ago, they had $500,000 worth of revenue from traffic tickets and fines. Now they have $3.5 million. And you can relate it to nothing more, I think, than that mall used to be a big sales tax generator, property tax generator. It's gone, and St. Anne has refused to face the facts, and now they have a speed trap on 70, and I think that should be offensive to people.
Yeah, okay, so you did have opposition down there, though, yesterday.
Yeah, there were some mayors of some of the smaller municipalities in near North County, from Greendale and Cool Valley, and they defended the practice. I mean, I just think at the end of the day, the people that are being, the injustice that's playing out are average, ordinary folks. They're being caught in this, they're being pushed further into poverty through these fines, and if they miss a court date, there's an additional charge of failure to appear. Sometimes people end up in jail for these minor infractions. I just think there's a better way to do it. But yeah, there were some people that defended the current system.
I can't see how they could realistically defend what they were doing.
Well, they talked about it being about safety, and I just don't think when you really look at the facts and you look at the numbers, and that's why I was glad that Chief Fitch was there to really, from a law enforcement perspective, because I have heard from police officers offline that have contacted me that didn't want to be identified, that work in some of these municipalities or have worked in some of these municipalities, and say, yeah, that's absolutely right. We had a quota. Our pay is based on this. They didn't join the police force or go to the police academy to write traffic tickets all day long. They wanted to do community policing. I think if we get away from some of this, it will allow more time for them to build those relationships in the community, which is really important.
Yeah, I've also heard a number of stories from a number of people, and I know it's only anecdotal, but I've heard it so many times from so many credible sources where they're busy writing a speeding ticket. Meanwhile, down the street, there's a drug deal going on, or there's a real crime that needs to be looked at, and they're foregoing those real criminals to hand out traffic tickets.
Yeah, and I just think, people aren't supposed to be just ATMs for these municipal governments. And by and large, most of the municipalities aren't abusing this system. But you have 14 municipalities in St. Louis County alone where it's their single biggest source of revenue. And we've got this myriad of 81 municipal courts in St. Louis County alone. And I just think, all you need, one of the things that's important about this debate is that there are cities out there that are budgeting more in their budget for traffic tickets and fines the next year. And I said yesterday, maybe I'm underestimating, the clairvoyance or soothsaying abilities of these city managers, but I think this has more to do about revenue than anything else.
All right, so it's a great idea. It's all well and good, but we also have, as you know, the law of unintended consequences. So if this law passes, and what's to say they can't circumvent it by getting more than 10%? What's the penalty? And then why can't they just plea it down to a noise violation, which then doesn't count as part of that 10% cap?
Well, one of on the last point, one of the things we did a couple years ago when we changed the cap from 35 to 30% on this Max Creek law, we made sure that if you were amending a moving violation to a non-moving violation, that still counts as revenue. So you can't get around it that way. But I do think there is some legitimate discussion, and the auditor's office has weighed in on this too, of having an accurate definition of what exactly revenue is. That is sort of ambiguous right now in the statute. That's one thing that we hope to clear up. But, I think that this will begin a healthier discussion, I hope, of ways that we can save money for taxpayers. Maybe there is a better way. Maybe there's a better model for sharing of services among municipalities, particularly ones really densely populated and close to one another. I just think that this hopefully can lead to good government reforms.
And so what are your chances of this thing actually getting through? As you know better than anybody that it takes 5, 6, 7, 10 years to get legislation all the way through the myriad of things you have to get through to get it onto the governor's desk.
I'm hopeful. I mean, our pro tem of the Senate mentioned this in his opening address to the Senate. I think it's priority. The governor made a brief mention of it yesterday in his state address. I think that we have a window here, given some of the things that have happened recently, and really, drawing our attention to something that I think we all intrinsically knew that was there when you drive past the airport and you see St. Anne and some of the other speed traps that exist on 7. I mean, we all know some of those cities that have done it in North County and in South County when St. George used to exist. But I do think we have a unique opportunity to do something about it, and it also is a state issue. I rattled off some numbers. Lake Tapawingo on the Kansas City side gets 75%. Of the revenue right now from traffic tickets and fines. So this is a statewide issue. We're acutely affected by it, I think, in St. Louis County. But I feel pretty good that we'll get something done. But as with anything, I'll be working with my colleagues, and it's a big state, and making sure that we're trying to address the concerns that they might have or suggestions they might have, particularly as additional enforcement mechanisms. But try to keep our eye on the prize here that we really are dealing with how our justice system plays out, people, how it's affecting real people, and again, trying to get some good government reforms and greater efficiency for taxpayers.
That's Eric Schmidt, state senator from Glendale. He's the one behind this ticket bill that's started its process to become a law. He is also in the early stages of his treasurer campaigns. Eric, we'll have you back numerous occasions between now and then. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks, McGraw.
You got it. Eric Schmidt, 7:30 here, Big 550. KTR.